All right,
Yeah,
guys. Yeah, all right. Today I have Cavedweller. How we doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's a good seeing you virtually in person. Um,
Yeah, it's nice to actually see you too.
yeah,
Actually talk to you properly. That's good.
yeah. Well, yeah, we have you're a day ahead of me. So you're in Australia.
Yeah, we're in the
So
future.
yeah, in the future. So where are you from? I mean, I said Australia, but whereabouts?
Yep. So I'm based in Geelong, which is on the south coast of Australia. So I'm right near the Great Ocean Road, which is where a lot of people come and check out the coast here. So I'm by
Okay.
the coast. Yeah.
Oh, so you're right on the water. Is that where you're from? You grew up around there,
Um,
or
I'm sort of from everywhere in Australia.
okay?
I was, born far away from here in the middle of Australia, and then travelled Victoria and Queensland and these different states. So, but I've been where I am now for about 15 years. So
So
I think this is where I want to stay. Yeah,
this is your home.
yeah. This is what I call my home.
All
Definitely.
right. And then, I mean, what I think misconception, maybe like Americans think this, but we always think like Australia's like the desert.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're not far wrong, to be honest.
Uh,
Most of it is the desert.
yeah.
Only I can't remember the exact statistic, but I think it's under 10% of our country
Okay,
is
so it is
inhabitable.
mostly.
Yeah, it's mostly
Uh,
barren wilderness nothingness, which
that's
is
mostly
cool in its own way. But
mostly in the
um,
middle.
yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
we all just live on the coast, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like you were telling me before we started. It's nearly 40 Celsius. So I mean, being by the coast and
Mm.
still that hot. I mean, why would you want to
Yes.
live in the middle?
Well, some places in the middle get up to 50 degrees,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It'd be crazy. It's
Yeah.
like some
It's
states out here where it gets that high as well.
wow.
Yeah.
There's,
Well, I
we
mean,
have yeah.
the like America has really extreme temperatures, really cold, and then it can get really hot in different parts of the country.
I didn't know that. I knew that it gets really cold, but I didn't know that you get the
Yeah. Well,
same
we have
sort of
Death
high
Valley.
temperatures.
Death Valley.
Right. That has the record, I think, now that I
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how I know this, but I think it has or did have the highest record. So
Yeah, I think they were bouncing
yeah.
and back and forth, and I think Death Valley just regained it. Like it was as of recent, not too long ago.
Oof. It's almost like a competition now, man.
Yeah. Well,
Who
they
can
do,
get the hottest temperature?
yeah. Well, they do ultra
Climate
marathon.
change.
Yeah, they do ultra marathons in there.
Oh no, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Well, it started at
insane, man.
night, so it's couple Celsius cooler, if that
Okay.
matters.
A couple degrees, not much.
Yeah. So how long give us just a little backstory of how Cave Dweller began before,
Mhm.
if music was in your background. Obviously you're a producer, but just give us a little insight.
Yeah, so I've been making music for a long time, since I was about 12 years old.
Yeah.
Started recording stuff then, and then I was in heaps of bands for, you know, 10, 20 years or so. So mostly rock music and heavy metal and that sort of thing, and grunge bands and stuff. But I've been producing as Cavedweller for about 3.5 years. Like I toyed with production before then, but it was only in the last 3.5 years I sat down and like, you know what? Um, uh, I learned that I'm actually a bit of a control freak when it comes to music. I'm a
Mhm.
I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I struggled in band environments, and that's on me, because I always had these strong ideas of how something should sound, and that doesn't always work when you're with other people. So I thought I'll go off on my own. I'll produce my own music in the way that I want to. And funnily enough, it's only more recently that I've actually started collaborating with people a little bit more, and trying to give up some of that control. But
Mhm.
yeah, so from rock music and heavy metal into um, production, and I started off doing like dubstep, you know, what was trendy at the time. And then over time, I've moved a long way away from that into more the organic house and, you know, the Afro house type stuff, which I really enjoy.
What band member were you? Were you playing guitar, drums?
Yeah, so all of that. Yeah,
Oh.
so I've been a guitarist, I've been a drummer, and I've been a vocalist as well in different bands. Yeah, well, I say vocalist, but it was more screaming, I guess.
Oh, yeah, for metal. For metal.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. And so just because you were a control freak, that didn't work out, basically.
Oh, it worked out. Like the last band I was in, we got a record label with Transcending Records in the USA, and you know we did okay. But we kind of alternated between, you know, like 6 members or so, and we all lived in different places, and it just became really, really stressful, you know, because I had this real strong urge that we really needed to be doing certain things and hitting certain milestones. So I was putting a bit of pressure on my band members, I think, and it was at a certain point where I'm like, you know what, if I want to take those extra steps, if I want to hit certain milestones, I should be doing that on my own rather than trying to force other people to, you know, build momentum when, you know, they've got things going on in their life. So yeah, I think I realized that in myself, that I work better generally on my own, which I found with quite a few producers. They seem to have a similar sort of story.
Maybe they should have thought that before they started the band.
Yeah, well, I didn't know at the time.
Them. I'm talking about them.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, maybe you're trying to motivate them versus control them.
Yeah, it's a fine line though between those two things. Yeah.
And then you said when you got into music production, electronic music production, you dabbled in dubstep.
Yeah. So when I started out producing, I think I was just trying to mimic the styles that I was interested in. So, you know, the trap and dubstep is what I was listening to.
Because it's very similar to metal and rock.
Yeah.
If you're going to compare, you know, aesthetics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you're the first person to actually like say that I've heard, but I think there's a real similarity there.
Yeah, trap, hip hop, same thing. I mean, a lot of that's becoming, you know, melted in together nowadays, but dubstep and metal, those are the comparisons if you're going to compare, you know. That's what I say when people don't really know, like they say electronic music all sounds the same, or anybody for that matter. I say, what kind of music do you actually like? And then I'll compare it with like, oh, you like classical music. Maybe you'll like trance or something, you know, you know, melodic or something. Or go ahead.
It's funny that you mentioned trance, because what really, really got me into production was I started going to these psytrance festivals in Australia, you know, to try listening to different music and experiencing something else rather than the rock shows I was used to. And it was at these psytrance shows that I found a lot of metalheads that really got into this style. And it really fascinated me with how complex a lot of that music is. And just the energy in that as well. So I guess that is something that's motivated me as well.
Well, maybe you noticed that in this, like a side trance environment, the people are 100% absorbed into the scene, the music, no distractions. Yeah. I mean, they may be the most diehard electronic music fans. From my experience that I've seen it, I mean, everyone is just into it at the moment.
They're the most intense and most wonderful scene of people, you know, because people who've been to metal shows know that it's an intense type of environment. But I got to say, that's nothing compared to the diehard psytrance fans, and you know, they're out there for days, you know, dancing to this type of music, and they just live and breathe it.
Yeah, and
days, you know,
yeah, 140 plus BPM.
Stop, man. So, yeah, but they're all really lovely people as well, you know, and real music lovers.
Yeah, definitely. So you went, you're playing around with certain styles that you know, thought you liked, or I mean, the music you liked. What brought you to realizing that you really like making organic house, you know, deep house, this organic kind of Afro house too, I've heard. So.
Yeah. So, you know, after a while of producing and dabbling with, you know, dubstep and things, I realized that, you know, I wasn't connecting with it emotionally, which is something that I was missing from that music personally. And so I started exploring more melodic genres of electronic music. And I started to reconnect with live instruments because I hadn't touched, you know, percussion or keys or guitar in quite a long time. And I found that these instruments were present in, you know, like organic house, folktronica, that sort of thing. So it was this blending of like live instrumentation and electronic music that when I discovered it, I was just thrilled by it because I'm like, it's the best of both worlds, you know. You can have these really groovy electronic beats, but you have the freedom to mess around with live instruments and have this real, I don't know, it's like a really immersive sound. So when I discovered those genres, I knew that was it. That is the style I want to do. And I've also noticed it's becoming more and more popular too. So
yeah,
that's
like
nice.
well, I mean, it depends who you talk to.
Yeah.
You know, some people like that when it's just niche and kind of just always stays indie. But, you know, electronic music, as you know, I mean, even dubstep was underground at one time.
Yeah.
You know, and became mainstream. And I mean, every genre I would say has a commercial part, you know, commercial part of it. I mean, now, at least now, you know. But
Yeah.
I like how it's kind of, you infuse different styles, there's different subgenres into your tracks.
Yeah.
Would that be correct?
It is. And I've never really known if that was a positive or a negative because I kind of can't help it. You know, I'll set out to make, say, an organic track or an Afro house track, but if the music is leading me in a different sort of direction where it involves these other sort of elements that you might not usually find in those genres, I can't help but pursue it, you know. So on one hand, I think it helps make my music a bit different. And on the other side, I think, you know, for DJs, they might find it a little bit difficult sometimes to mix my stuff in.
Yeah, or
so I'm trying
it.
to find that balance, you know.
Yeah, or I guess label it or categorize it or put it, you know, in a box. But I think it's a good thing because as someone that makes, you know, someone that makes music, you're keeping true to yourself and original, not like you said, using these certain sounds that you will always hear in these certain genres, you know? And that's what's going to keep you different and unique from all the others. That's just my opinion. So I don't think that's...
No, it's nice to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, it is that artist's battle. I'm sure you've probably faced this yourself as well. There's this sort of, you got to find this balance between, you know, what's true to you, but I also want people to listen to it. You know, I'm not just making music for myself. I want other people to enjoy it. So I listen to those genres and I guess I borrow from them and I'm influenced by them. So you can hear these little aspects of, you know, Afro house or organic or even sometimes trance in these songs. But yeah, I found that I started to enjoy it more when I put more of myself into it rather than trying to mimic a genre or anything like that. I just found it more creative and fun to kind of mess with those perimeters of those genres.
But when you're going into producing a track from scratch, do you have an idea, or you just start playing with sounds and then you see where it leads you?
So more recently, I've tried to be more intentional about my production. So I'll actually sit down and be like, okay, I want a song that sounds like this, or conveys a certain emotion, or, perhaps I want to experiment with some percussion and rhythm, you know what I mean, in a certain style. Okay. So I'll have a general loose idea, I want to make an upbeat sort of tribal track. But that's as much as I will kind of focus on. So, I'll start a track and I've got these general perimeters, okay, tribal, upbeat, maybe. And I keep trying until I at least tick this criteria. And then I see where the track goes. But so when I say intentional, I will often start a track and it won't hit the criteria I'm going for, so I'll dump it. I'll chuck it out.
You'll dump it. You'll just move on.
Yeah, got to move on, man. Everyone says, you got to finish every track, but no, you don't.
No. Well, I was just saying, if you're working on it and it's maybe not going the direction of your intention, something could still come out of
sometimes.
it. But you're saying it's not, so you just get rid of it, or
often, yeah. And it's more like me trying to be disciplined with my production in the way I interpret being disciplined, because I am going for a certain style and brand now, So if I make something that's totally different, like a hip hop track or something like that, I might keep it for my own listening or send it to some friends, have a listen to this, but I'm not going to put as much effort into it as, I guess, the style that I want to do and grow. Yeah. So I figure if you're spending more time on those other tracks, I'm not learning the skills I need to develop this brand.
And what is that brand?
So that brand, what I'm really interested in is tribal. Mm-hmm. This tribal feel. It doesn't have to be a specific genre. It doesn't have to be like tribal house or whatnot, but I'm really inspired by different cultures around the world, particularly indigenous culture in Australia, and the music that they produce. It's just so powerful. So I don't necessarily want to replicate that, but I want to be inspired by that primal sort of tribal sound, because I think it conveys into modern dance music really well. So so I say tribal. Some tracks will be more like that. Some tracks will have elements of that. So I just try to keep like some sort of common thread in my music. And I guess it usually comes through in like percussion and the instruments I'm using as well.
Well, I saw you posted on your Instagram, you were doing was it a live performance, or on one of your recent posts?
Yeah. I'm trying to create I guess I'm trying to move into live performance more so. So I think
you have plenty of experience in the band and playing live instruments, so it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and I think it's engaging. I think it's engaging to watch. I think it can be quite emotional too, because when you're playing live, you can kind of go off book. You can kind of jam a little bit. So you can kind of go with what you're feeling and you can mix it up in that way. So there's that side of things. I'm not the best DJ, if I'm being completely honest. It's something I need to learn more of. So,
some people like do a lot of that live performance. That's what they specialize in.
Yeah, and I think that's what I want to do. I just think it'd be a lot of fun to mess around with different instruments on stage and stuff.
People, it's in my opinion, again, it's just appreciate someone that plays instruments in a performance. I know, I guess, DJ said it's completely different because you're mixing, while live performance, you're playing songs, but you're doing it live, like it's so much different than someone just pressing buttons, in some cases, some DJs not even pressing buttons,
David Guetta.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of, I think there is a lot of artistry to DJing. When I started trying to learn it, I quickly learned that it can be really hard.
I get the hang of it.
It's a skill.
Yeah. And it depends how, in depth you want to be on the decks. I mean, the people that are mixing, so quickly and within, minutes, sometimes seconds, that it takes a lot more skill to just go on the fly and mixing different genres as well. If you stick in the same genre, like it's just a 4 on the floor, not too difficult nowadays because it's so digitized. I mean, everything's like right in front of you. These CDJs now has like everything you need to know, like right on the screen. Yeah. It's like crazy, So
I agree. You can use those tools to make it easier on yourself, but I think you can kind of tell between someone who relies heavily on that compared to someone who's really knows how to work an audience. And I think that's, you feel it,
The joke is like, I play with my eyes.
Yeah.
You're just looking down. You're not playing with your ears, you're feeling.
Yeah, where's that cue mark? Yeah.
What I noticed when electronic music became kind of a boom, at least out here in the 2007, 8, 9, 10 era, this started to get really big out in the US, starting with the big festivals and these DJs becoming rock stars. I notice, and the producer becoming the star versus the DJ. It used to be the DJ, and then when people wanted to start hearing music, the producer had to become the DJ. So a lot of these guys were just producers, computer guys, sometimes like just music nerds. They have no idea how to work a crowd, because you're right. It is a talent to know exactly how to control a crowd and make a crowd feel a certain way. And if the music's not working, you can have a plan B, plan C, and so on. So it's interesting how a lot of producers had to become DJs, right? And some of them are just not that good, unfortunately,
Well, yeah, I mean, some people,
two different talents, basically.
They are two different talents. And I mean, you need a lot of time, I think, to dedicate to both if you're going to do both really well. Like, I know that, an example that comes to my mind, is Alice in Wonderland. She's very, very, very mainstream these days, but
I've seen her old performances when she was, is she Australian?
Yeah, she is.
That's right.
Yeah. But I mean, I think she's an example of someone who can do both really well.
She can, Well, she sings
she's
too.
out there with the 4 decks and she plays cello and does everything. Yeah. So, complete works. But I think that's kind of describes the hustle that artists and musicians have to do these days. You can't just make music. You've got to do everything, you've got to, well, as probably more than I do, about all the other things you need to do.
Well, there's the whole story, Avicii didn't know how to DJ.
Yeah.
I
didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, if you read about it, he's like I think it was his manager that really helped him out a lot with it, but he had no, because he was a big producer, he became popular with Bromance and the most popular one. Do you know it? No.
Look, I know his songs because they're on the radio all the time. Okay, but I don't know the names.
I have it in my head. I just can't think of the title. But he was a perfect example. Producer first, and then how to become a DJ. Have you checked out or heard of Circle? CERK.
Like those performances that they do around the world in those beautiful locations.
Yes.
Yeah, so I watch those.
A lot of them are live performances. Not all of them, but a lot of them. are doing some type of live performance. You notice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I saw one recently. I think it was Circle, where there wasn't even the guy. I forget who it was. But he was in front of some pyramids, and he didn't even have a DJ deck.
Oh,
He just had.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
Sebastian Lager. I guess
that's the one.
how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure. Lager. Yeah, but
But
yeah, no, I've seen
that
that.
was
That one's
mind
cool.
blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was sick.
To do that live, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another good one that I've been watching is I think it's called Tullum Sounds. Have you seen this on
How
YouTube?
do you spell that?
Tulum
Oh,
Sounds.
like Tulum. Like
Tulum, yeah,
Mexico.
yeah.
Tulum.
There's a lot of live instrumentation in the artists that they have there, and that's how I discovered a lot of these organic
Oh, okay.
producers.
That's what I was when
I
you told me
follow
about that. Yeah. That's what I was thinking of when you were talking about all that. So maybe you seen that. So
yeah. So that's another good one for live performances.
it's getting back to tribal. You have a song coming out called "Out of Body."
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, comes out January 20th. 20th.
Yep.
Yes.
20th.
20th.
Yeah.
Just talk about that a little bit. And that's what you're mentioning, psytrance realm.
Yep. Yeah. So I have a single coming out of Body through Raw Doggy Records, 20th of Jan. And this song that came out, I had a very specific idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a song that was inspired by indigenous Australian instrumentation. So it includes the instruments that they use, so clapping sticks, didgeridoo, that sort of thing. And I thought that those types of instruments and sounds, they suit psytrance, so I ended up making a psytrance track, because it's where this just kind of works, because things like the didgeridoo have this sort of, I consider it a sort of dark sound, sort of a little bit edgy, but can really get you kind of dancing, and it has that sort of rock feel to it. So yeah, I sat down and I wrote a psytrance track. I wouldn't say it's a typically psytrance track. It has a looser feel than what you'd mostly find in the psytrance genre. Other artists that probably within this type of realm include the artist Loud. Have you ever heard of those guys? They're from Israel, I believe.
Israel's popular for psytrance as well.
Yeah. Probably less so than Vinny Vici and all of those huge name acts, but yeah. So it's psytrance, but it's not that sort of ultra clean modern psytrance. It's more organic, kind of going back to the roots of what psytrance, how it kind of started. Yeah. So yeah, I'm hoping people like it, because I think I've
heard it. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your first of Cavedweller. This is your first kind of like more, thumping tribal track, I would say. More high energy. I don't think you've released anything quite like this.
No, this is quite a change up from what I've done. In the past, it is definitely more of a track to get people dancing and moving. But it is a bit gritty, I think, and it slightly has this slightly dark, trippy sound.
Well, the bass sound helps. That
warm. yeah, kind of groggy sound, which I really like. I like that sludgy trance sound,
like
rather
you said,
than the super fast stuff.
Yes, and like you said, like that bass example in this song is not so perfectly clean like you would hear, in some of these psytrance songs, which is nice.
No,
you're doing your own thing once again and putting your like little twist on it.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to I want my songs to sound a little bit organic. They don't have to all the time, but I just find there's something about it that there's something about having a little bit of rawness to a track that can make it feel more emotive or more powerful. I know a lot of electronic music goes for super clean, which is totally fine. But I think with my music, I like that raw sort of aspect to it, you know, which I guess comes from my background in like rock music and stuff.
Cool. Well, we look forward to it. Like, again, it comes out January 20th.
Sure does.
Out of Body.
I'm excited. Yeah. Looking forward to that.
Real quick, what other plans do you have for this upcoming year, if you've made any, or goals or anything you wanted to say in the year of 2023, since we are here?
My goal is to produce as much as possible. Last year, you know, I struggled to find the time, and I think this year I want to make the time to produce, you know. And I'm also thinking of doing a couple collaborations. I started, you know, communicating with other artists, and, you know, possibly doing, you know, a remix as well as a couple of collaborations with vocalists and things.
Cool.
So I guess my goal for this year is to let the music keep growing, you know, take it to that next step. So that's what I want to do.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Quade. How can we find you? How can people find you on the social universe?
Yeah, well, I'm on Instagram. My little handle thing is Cavedweller AUS. So for Australia, Cavedweller AUS. I'm also on YouTube under the same, you know, extension, and I'm on SoundCloud and all streaming networks as well. So yeah, come and say hi to me. I like communicating with people and actually talking to people. So if you jump on Instagram and say hi, I'll definitely get back to you and we'll have a chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, Cavedweller. And yeah,
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, we'll hear more from you.
Tasty Tuesdays! Thanking you for your time this time. Until next time, we'll see you again next week, same time, same channel.